What is going on, Degen Nation? Kenny Kim here, bringing you another Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast this week for the U.S. Open, the third major of the year. As usual, I am here with everyone's favorite Canadian outside of Rory. I guess Rory's honorary Canadian, Tyler Tamboline. Tyler, I'm finally back with Tyler this week after missing last week. Had a busy week at work, but I'm ready to go for the U.S. Open. Tambo, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Love the fire that you're bringing in. I'm excited. U.S. Open. We'll talk about this in a second, but I had a little chat with Mayo this week about favorite majors. So we'll go into that maybe during story time a little bit. But before we get into this show, I want to remind everyone very quickly, this show is brought to you and presented by DraftKings. Special offer later on before we get into the DFS tiers for DraftKings, where you get an offer over there at the sportsbook. And then, of course, our friends over at Fantasy National, fantasynational.com/FGD. Sign up there, get yourself 20% off your first payment, any package you choose. Beneficial to hop in right now. You get the major. You do a month, you're going to get this, a bunch of other good tournaments thereafter leading up to the Open. So I like that idea for you guys. Kenny, like you said at the top, Rory McIlroy gets the job done. It's a big week. We didn't get to get your live golf takes last week. We'll get those in a bit. But, Rory, first off, goes out. Incredible day. Just, I don't know if it was the setup, him, JT, and Finau in the same group, going off and split tees and threesomes. Goes out. They all just ball out. It was like 6 under. 4 under 7, or I forget, 6, 7, 8 or something. It was incredible what they did to get the job done, and Rory goes out and ships it. So what were your thoughts on the tournament?
Yeah, pretty impressive, especially since Rory and JT are now basically the face of the PGA Tour with everything that's going on with the live across the sea, across the pond, and going to be in the United States next week. Pretty incredible stuff by Rory, but he loves Canada. It doesn't matter what course he plays. It played a lot easier today than it did the first 3 days. Don't let that fool you. I mean, the course had some teeth to it, especially the first 2-3 rounds. And then Rory came out and we had all these low scores today. I guess they wanted to see a little bit of a shootout on this last day, and that's what they got. Entertaining stuff. At the top 10 at one point in time was like every good player in the field. The PGA couldn't have asked for anything better on the week where it's competing with live golf. Finau had a chance. Fitz was up there at some point in time. Lowry is up there. They couldn't get the job done. And Roy went out there, made it a little bit close at the end, got within a stroke. I think JT got within a stroke on 16, 15, something like that. But he ended up pulling it off. So it was a fun tournament to watch. Always great. The crowds there are amazing. The hockey rink thing they got is pretty cool. So it was a fun tournament to watch. Also, I guess the big winner this week is Charles Schwartzel, right? $5 million for his win over on the live tour. I watched most of the half of the second and the final round of it. It wasn't the best, but it's the first week. They need to get more players. It's not going to work with just the big guys they got. They got to at least double or triple that if they really want people to tune in. And telecast needs to be a little bit better. But I mean, it's here. It's not going to go away. I don't even think the Saudis care if it fails or not. So we're just going to have to deal with it. Whatever your take on it is, it's fine. I don't care if guys going over there, especially guys on the last leg of their careers, going over there for one final payday, which is basically what they got in this first round. But now they're getting the Reeds and the Brysons. If other big names get over there, it's going to be a problem for the PGA Tour. What'd you think of the events this week?
Yeah, for sure. The Canadian Open, I'll tie them together first off the top, because there'll be a lot of conversations this week around it. Obviously, when me out on Twitter and things like that, a lot of people are like, oh, you're all about live, all this stuff. Not at all. Like I'm not a pro live guy. I'm just, at the end of the day, I care so much about the game of golf. I tried to put this into words in a tweet last week, just about the, sort of the investment. We're so invested into golf in general. This is the fantasy golf Degenerates, not the fantasy PGA Degenerates. So yes, that's what we care about. That's part of it. That's what we're talking about. And that matters to me. And I care. I'm just saying, but all I care about is the news that's going on around the sport. I'm intrigued by it. I think it's interesting. There's a lot of different angles of what it's going out. And it's just, to me, the funny part is just like, all the people call the blue check marks, but everyone coming after them, like they just look for any little thing. Oh, the views today are only 30,000. Well, who cares? Like you said, the Saudis don't care. It's week 1. It don't matter. Oh, the leaderboard, it only says the last 3 initials. Yeah, it sucks. But now you're telling them that and they can just go fix it. They have all this time. Like I said, so they go out again June 30th in Portland. These next couple are interesting. You just mentioned it with Bryson, Reed. Ricky's been lumped into like 4 different unofficial reports, but looks like he'll be there eventually. There'll be other guys, like you said, last paycheck, last hurrah. That's fine. But the bigger picture is if they do get somebody big, right? Like if a Xander moves over, a Hovland, a Rahm, and that one sounds crazy, but people forget his connections with Pat Perez, mainly Phil Mickelson, but I'm saying even like Baroff and I were talking about it. He was on last week. Thanks again to Ryan for hopping on. But like, it seems like they're targeting him with, they already have Sergio. They have Phil. Perez is one of his good buddies. It's like, just to say, maybe there's a chance. I don't think he will, but if he can still play in the majors, he cares about those. Does it get up for the other stuff? I don't know. And obviously at some point you think the PGA Tour is going to come out and figure it out for these other guys. I just worry that that's not necessarily enough, because like anyone who knows that's talking about out there, money doesn't matter to them. And it's not, there's nothing they can do. Like people say, oh, the PGA Tour needs to fix all this stuff. They need to fix a lot of things, but no matter what they fix, they're not going to be able to fix guys getting paid $125 million signing bonuses to go out and play 8 events a year. And look, even if it goes to 10, 12, they end up playing the same, but they still end up making a bunch more. And I'm sure there'll be a way they can work around that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of events coming up in the States. The Portland one is interesting because it's after the US Open. So guys can figure out this US Open. It's the end of June. I think you see more people go over then. And then the one after that, I think it's Bedminster. Yeah, looking at it there. Just anyway, it's after the Open. So guys may just play through and want to play the Scottish Open, play the Open, then hop over at that point. So we'll see what happens. As far as this event goes, just to tie it out, Kenny, and I'll click it back to you, but just not taking away from it. The event was phenomenal. I'm Canadian. I personally love it. I'm excited about it. I didn't think they would set it up like they did today, where it was kind of completely gettable. So you had that little race down to the stretch and made it even better because Rory, JT, now just that group alone, and they were all getting the job done. But the funny part to me on the opposite side of it, again, is not pro live, just explaining it. Like there's a reason Chris Gotterup was 20% in lineups this week. We knew that it was like 7 guys up top and then it fell off a cliff. So I would have been more saddened by the fact if these guys weren't at the top of the board. My point is, it's no surprise. People are like, oh, we never get this. We never really have a tournament where it's like 7 guys that are way ahead with no mid tier and then a terrible bottom range, like 13 or 4, I think 15 guys withdrew by the end of the start of the tournament. So you had even worse guys get into the field. So it would have been a surprise to me if these guys weren't at the top. But of course we love it. We want to see the best in the world play. That's what I'm excited about. But that's what I'm excited about this week, Kenny. I love the US Open. I'll click it back. Any final thoughts before we go into this? Then we'll talk about majors and stuff.
The last thing about LIV, the 2 biggest problems the PGA Tour is going to face is the fact that the European Tour hasn't said anything about suspending players that go to the LIV. So if these PGA guys can go play 6 events on the LIV Tour and then play a modified smaller Euro Tour where they can get OWGR points, that would be a downfall. That would probably bring more people over, so they know golfers can still play pro golf somewhere else, even if they join LIV and take all that money. That could be an issue. And the next issue is the young guys that LIV is targeting, the U.S. Amateur champions, the NCAA champions. If one of those guys becomes a star, where he's winning events on that tour, and not having him on the PGA Tour, that could bring more eyeballs over there. That could bring more young people over there, and that could be another problem. We'll see how it goes. I mean, losing golfers of this caliber is not great for the PGA Tour at all, and I don't think there's going to be much they can do to stop it if you come to the legal ramifications of it. So, I mean, basically all the PGA can do is hopefully these leaderboards stay the way it is, and they get a little better with the TV and the viewing and the fans' needs and stuff like that. But that's enough for LIV.
Did you see the tweet this week about, this is about PGA, so we can talk about the tweet about the 11 pre-made sets for the TV, like for the golf shot shown. Obviously during the LIV broadcast, you're going to see all the shots because they got nothing else to show. They have no sponsors, no ads, no nothing. I get that. But the main point was that I took away from it anyway, from the tweet, was there's 11 preset in the same half hour of golf or whatever it was. The first, I can't remember what the timeline was. I'd have to look up the tweet, but there was 11 preset things they had to show to, like, on top of commercials and ads. That's the problem. Yeah. Figure it out. You've got cameras set up. You can get them set up at the start of the week. I don't care. Show something else, not that.
The thing is, Liz showed a shit ton of shots, right? Yeah. But what I need is like who this guy is. Like there was a guy with like 47 letters in his name.
Yeah.
That they were showing. I have no idea who that guy is.
Well, that'll change. Like you
give
said,
me like 20, 30 seconds to be like, this is blah, 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 blah from blah, blah, blah. He's this ranked this in the world, and then show a shot. It was almost too quick. And I didn't know these players. So it makes it tough. Like if it was like this on a PGA Tour, it'd be amazing because we know everybody.
Right.
Oh shit, you know what I'm saying? But it's a lot tougher for the LIV crowd because 35 of the names you have no idea. Like the dude literally had like 40 letters in his name. It was unbelievable.
It was a bad first scene for that stuff for sure.
Yeah.
In the
And
end,
so they need to get that better. They need to have the name of the golfer on the screen, not some 3-letter last name thing where it comes up. And I don't know. And another problem, I guess, is for me is I can't see the left side of my TV still. So that whole leaderboard is on the left side, and that made it difficult for me. I had to turn my head so I can watch. So it definitely made it difficult. But anyways, that's enough of the live. I'm sure we'll talk about it more when more golfers go over there, because they're going to lose more. It's going to happen. It's too much money. They're going to lose more. But let's go on. Let's talk about what do you want to do, the listener league?
Yeah, let's do the listener league first, and then we'll talk, just a little bit on the majors and stuff there. But go to the listener league. Jay McKenzie took this thing down.
Jay McKenzie is the winner. He went superstars and scrubs this week. He had Rory, who was 10-5, 20% owned. He had Burns, 10,000, 16.7% owned. He had Tony Finau, who was 9,400. So like Tambo was saying, racking up the top of the leaderboard, top of the charts here with all these good golfers is how he went. He went superstars and scrubs. Tony was 15% owned, 9,400. Wyndham Clark, who was in the lead there for a little bit, 6,900. He was 4% owned. Danny Lee, 5% owned. I know you liked him last week. Finished top 10, of course, and Robert Streb finished 53rd. Less than 1% owned, but he made the cut, and he was like $6,500. What'd you think?
Yeah, aggressive for sure. Like you said, to go this way, you need everything to go this, perfectly for you, basically at the top. You need these guys to be up there. Rory, Burns, Finau were first, fourth, second. That works. And then you've got all your values sort of came to play with T7, T10, and Streb didn't do it, but you already had enough going on. And if you go to the main GPP winners, it was basically Burns, Streb swapped for Lowry and for Ben Martin. So like you see stuff like that, but either way, just, taking a different stance, going a little bit more aggressive, going the full 3-6K route, punting completely on a week like this, where there was so much uncertainty. I don't hate it. So good for them. Jared Linden, we'll give a shout out to him in second, because he came second, 6th, and 18th in this tournament. So 750 or whatever like that. That's a pretty solid finish for Jared Linden. But Jay McKenzie, congrats. We'll see you in the 3-man this week. It'll be myself, Kenny, and you. Already got you into the Tournament of Champions. And then just a quick note, Kenny, couple things. One, Listener League will be out. Please help support it. We got them to do, even though, so this week, actually, I forgot, didn't quite get to 700 on the 750, came out a little bit late from them, as well as it's obviously not a popular week with a major coming up and everything else going on in the conversation around live and all that stuff I mentioned on my Twitter there, but they did still commit to the 1,500 for this week, no matter what. So they're going to do 1,500 spots. It's going to be the same $5 3 max, very balanced, 18% or so, 17%, something like that gets paid. It's going to be an awesome tournament, reduced rake, as always, guaranteed money, no matter if it fills, but it would help us for now and for future if you guys can fill that up. It's free to go and retweet it out to people. Sorry, $5 to enter, 3 max, 15 total if you want to get in for 3 entries. But if you can help us share that around this week, we'd appreciate it. The other thing, Kenny, everyone, and thanks to you guys out there for helping us out and the comments and everything that goes with it. The 2 winners of the $100 Millie Maker tickets will be announced tomorrow on our Twitter at FG Degenerates. I'll have that out there. We'll get you guys the tickets put into your DK accounts. We'll let you know the winners tomorrow there, but thank you guys for that. Those comments have been awesome. The like button, all the subscribes, all that stuff you guys are doing for us. And then of course the reviews, just a ton of great reviews on there. So we appreciate you guys. If you're going to continue to do that, we're going to do this again for the Open. So keep going there. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe to Mayo Media Network. Leave a comment of your favorite fade over 8,000. I'll remind you again later. And then of course, for the extra ballots, go on to Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating, and the review for the bonus ballot. Kenny, anything else you got to add on that stuff?
No, I'm good. Let's get to this week, man. Let's talk about it. The U.S. Open. It's going to be fun. First off, let's talk about the course. 3rd major of the year, finally upon us. From the Country Club at Brookline, Massachusetts. The last big event played here, I guess, was the U.S. Amateur. But before that, on a tour level, would probably be a 99 Ryder Cup, which you remember Justin Leonard celebration. And then you got the David Duval weird ass fist pump, and then of course the United States running across Jose Maria Olazábal's path on that putt after Justin Leonard made that. Jose needs to chill out. He wouldn't have made that putt anyways. It's all good. Go USA. That was probably the last time a big time event was there. U.S. Amateur's big. It was played there. There are definitely some names that played the U.S. Amateur in 2013 that are playing this week. Matt Fitzpatrick won. Corey Connors got to the semis. Scheffler got to the quarterfinals. Patrick Rogers, Schwab, Xander. They all got to the third round. Bryson was in it. Brandon Hagee, Seth Reeves, Wyndham Clark, Nick Hardy, Cameron Young, Justin Thomas, Will Zalatoris, bunch of names that they played this back in the day. And of course, Fitzy won. Lots of interesting trends coming up. If you get a chance, go out and read Steve Bamford's article this week on the research, on the research for the U.S. Open. Some interesting trends that he put into it. The first ever U.S. Open winner on the course in the Northeast in the last 10 years. That's Pennsylvania and above. They've had a top 5 finish somewhere else in the Northeast in their career. Distance has seemed to become a bigger factor in the U.S. Open. I know they're usually long courses, so it makes sense. But you see, like, the last 6 winners were all inside the top 20 in driving distance and way outside the top 50 in driving accuracy for the week. It sort of makes sense since a lot of these younger generation golfers are, rely on their driver, hitting it out there and just pounding it out of the rough. That's the way a lot of these guys are playing nowadays, and that's something we'll probably see this week. You're also seeing a lot of big-time first-time winners at U.S. Opens. I mean, Morikawa,
Rahm,
not Morikawa, Rahm, Bryson. If you go back some, I think it was Koepka's second major. I think he won the PGA first. Rory's. It's all been a lot of the elite names and won this event. There have been a bunch of first-time major winners at the U.S. Open as well. Now, weather, of course, always can be a factor. Right now, we're seeing anywhere from 10 to 25 mile-per-hour winds Thursday through Sunday. A little bit of rain on Friday. A little bit of rain early in the week. Actually rain on Thursday as well. So it could play a little bit softer. We'll see. That will change the course a bit. If it's not as lightning fast and firm, there's a lot of rain, it will play just slightly easier, I think, in my opinion. So the Country Club of Brookline, 7,300-yard par 70, typical par 70 layout, 2 par 5s, 4 par 3s. The par 5s are lengthy. One is around 560. The other is over 600 yards. 3 of the par 3s range from like 190 to 220 yards. One, the par 3, 11th, is a short downhill par 3, only about 130 yards long. Now, for a 7,300-yard course, it doesn't seem like it's that long, but 8 of the 10 par 4s are over between 450, are playing almost 450 to 500 plus yards. I think 5 of them are playing right around 500 yards. So, it's going to be a lot of these longer par 4. That's where you're going to have to hold on to your butts and try to get par and get your thing out there and try and take advantage of the par 5s, shorter par 3s, shorter par 4s, where you're going to get the scoring done this week. Now, off the tee, golfers are going to see average size fairways with some fairway bunkering. The main defense will be the thick 5-inch rough. I've seen some videos already of the rough, and it does not look pretty. Super thick, 5 inches tall ball sinking all the way to the bottom. If golfers miss even wildly, they're going to have to deal with even higher, even thicker fescue rough, and some trees. What makes tee shots even more difficult here is the fact there's going to be a lot of blind tee shots, a lot of blind approaches too. Golfers are going to have to rely on their caddies a bunch when it comes to these blind shots throughout the week. Now, when you're looking at approach shots, you're going to see probably the smallest greens you'll see on tour. Probably some of the smallest greens these golfers have ever seen on tour. Tiny postage stamp greens that they're planning on playing firm, and it's the USGA. They're going to plan on playing fast, over 13 on the stimp. The wind doesn't look like it's going to go insane, so I think they can really ratchet up that speed. Now, again, it depends on the weather, on the rain. We'll see how soft that makes the course. Now, even though the greens are tiny, golfers are going to still need to hit to certain spots on the green to have legitimate birdie chances. Leaving it above the hole, probably going to be a no-no this week. All the greens, most of the greens slope from back to front. Downhill putts are going to be no fun. Golfers, from some past interviews, golfers have said that they would rather have a 40-foot uphill putt than a 10-foot downhill putt at this course. So you got to be able to hit your spots, leave it below the hole to really get birdie chances. Now, if they miss the greens, up and downs are going to be very tricky because of the rough and the speed and the undulation of the greens. So, I think golfers are going to need, this week, are going to need a solid short game. Their all-around game needs to be good. Drives need to be accurate or very long. Iron shots from all distances must be crisp, and the short game must be elite. Pretty easy, right? What do you think, Tambo?
Sounds like you were describing yourself there a little bit. You were talking about hold on to your butts, get your thing out there, thick, bushy, rough, 5 inches, tiny, tiny, tiny. And then you went on about a little bit about the course. So I appreciate that, Kenny. But you don't need to share that much on this show. I think I hear you though. I like the course. I'm very excited for this. I mentioned earlier, like I say this all the time. Like usually the Masters, my favorite major. I like the app for DFS purposes and for betting, as well as, being able just to follow it along, know the course, know the history, everything that goes with it. I like the Open because I like primetime golf, staying up late, waiting for that first. You get to see a lot of great shots. Weather can become a factor. It's just a great little spot. You don't get that too often. But for some reason, Kenny, every single year it comes around, this US Open, and people make fun of me all the time. I'm not a big true Canadian because I don't love hockey, or, I make fun of the CFL or all the stuff that goes on here, and it is what it is. But I just do love this golf. And I think that we always get a great leaderboard. We always get a great finish. It is the best of the best, the true cream of the crop, rise to the top. So I love the US Open. I'm excited for this. And this course, for whatever reason, excites me quite a bit. The last time I was this excited was probably at Winged Foot. When Bryson won, I did the whole thing. I remember doing it, just going through hole by hole and watching like, oh, let's check this out. What's the yardage look like? What are we seeing about this course? And I did it for this time too. And honestly, it goes with everything you said, but just like it's a spot here where these guys are going to miss a ton of greens. And so I had this conversation already, but I think that in general, like that's just going to be the most important no matter what. Length is always a positive at a US Open. We want that. Accuracy can be, but hey, we saw videos today where it was Ted Scott actually. He wasn't with Scotty Scheffler this week. He's out on the course rolling balls out of the middle of the fairway, 280 yards in, and it was right down into the water. So it's almost like a perfect drive for some of those guys that just doesn't get rewarded, where they're going to know this going into the hole where they can either lay up or go long and left into the rough. But just seeing that just makes me excited about the weekend. So I'm going to be focused heavily on, the short game around the green, the bunkers, the way it sets up. I don't love buckets. We talk about this all the time, but like 125 to 150, 175 to 200, just because while there's a lot of 200-yard shots out there, some of the stuff is with elevation and with downhill, that sort of stuff. So you'd actually be surprised. It seems more like it would fall into that 175 to 200 from what I saw. And then of course the bunkers around the greens, there's just so many of them, man. Like it's going to be interesting. One thing I thought, from the first conversation I've had this week on the course is that not ever discounting distance at an event at a US Open, of course, but one thing about it here, why I think it could end up being something, is that if you are hitting shots, like you've got a guy middle of the fairway, but he's 200 yards in, it's already going to be tough enough to hold these greens that if they can plug, you go into these bunkers from 200 yards, there's a chance that a very serious plug, you hit the green and roll off, you're going a lot further than if you've got a guy out there. And I don't think you can bomb and gouge. Mayo and I talked about this on his show yesterday for it. And you definitely can't do that because the way you're coming up out, the elevation, the blind shots, all of that. But if you've at least got a shorter club in, and this is standard stuff at a US Open, but you roll off, you're in the thick rough off the side of the green, but you're right there. Like you can get out of there. We saw guys at Memorial or at the PGA Championship be able to still get out of that stuff. And if you roll off into the bunker, you get that shitty rollout. It sucks because the landing spaces are very small, but you probably get that nice butter soft roll into the middle of the bunker. And yeah, you've got a bunker shot. So does everyone else, but you could avoid some of that. So really focus on the distance and big time on the around the green game, the bunker stuff. Just, that short game is going to be so important here.
Yeah, short game is going to be huge. There's no doubt about that in my mind. No personal story time from Kenny with Kenny this week, but I do have a story time fixture coming up in the 6K range here in a little bit. So before we get into these tiers, let's go ahead and pay some bills.
Are you ready for the NBA champs to be crowned? Join the finals action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can make any $5 NBA bet and get $150 in free bets instantly. Looking to turn another small bet into a big payday during the NBA Finals? With the DraftKings Same Game Parlay, you can do just that. This NBA season, a customer placed a $5 Same Game Parlay and won over $5,000. Create your own parlay by combining multiple bets like which team will win, total threes made, total rebounds, and more, and boom, you have a shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code FGD, make any $5 bet during the NBA Finals and get $150 in free bets instantly. That's promo code FGD only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
All right, let's get to these tiers. 10K and up. What do we got? We got Cam Smith all the way up to Scotty Too Hottie. Who you going with this week?
Ooh, disrespect right out of the gate for Morikawa at 10,000.
Oh, I forgot I didn't even see him. That's true.
Oh, geez, that's like bad news.
Still sort of blind.
Yeah, I know. Hey, you have an excuse now. This is perfect. I love it. Yeah, look, this range is going to be, challenging because one thing I will say, the elephant in the room, first off, Kenny, and I'll get your thoughts, is the pricing. This week, I never really dogged DraftKings too much on this, and it is what it is. We all play with the same stuff. You got to work with it and figure it out. But I think today we could go through. We're not going to do it. We'll talk throughout the tiers, but I think you could easily list the guys that we would say are the top 10 owned already for the slate. And we just don't know the exact order of where they land. That speaks to poor pricing, but we all got to play with the same stuff, and that can help you make adjustments, and you can glean your edge from that. So I'm not saying it's not good, but I'm just saying in general, what's going on up here. So I think right out of the gate, obviously Rory winning, Rory looking like he sets up perfectly for this course that everything we just talked about, long, usually accurate, but even if he's not, he's gonna be way longer. There were spots today that he's walking by JT and Finau by 20 or 30 yards and just saying, all right, guys, I'll see you up there. Like, you go ahead. And it is what it is. That's part of what he does. But, Rahm, JT, Scheffler, and the guy that stands out for me, again, he'll be the second most popular, I think, after Rory, but it is JT. And a lot of factors that go in with it. Like I said, all those stats that I looked up, everything you see about there, he really does, I wouldn't say crush, but he's been much better around the greens, bogey avoidance, sand saves, all that stuff than these guys, besides maybe Rory, and Rory's right there with them. So I think those two are the sort of the important ones up top. What you do with Rory will be key, because he's going to be like 30%. And I don't think you necessarily have to go there, or 25%, but more in high stakes as the safety play. And he's only 10-5. Like Scheffler's there, JT's there. Rahm is interesting. I have way more love though. I know the guys at the bottom like Cam Smith and Collin Morikawa will be lower owned, but I don't see it as much. Cam Smith with that nice around the green game could be a nice GPP pivot if you don't want to play Rory or something. But for me, JT, Rahm, Rory, that's where I sit right now. Rory might switch to Cam Smith or Scheffler. I might just fade him completely by the end of the week, because it seems like he's just going to continue to get more and more popular. And I like some of the chalkier guys, 9K, 77 range, like that sort of stuff. Go ahead. What do you got up top?
So I like the three best drivers of the golf ball up here. I'm not the biggest fan of the 9K range either. There's a couple of guys there, but I'm not going to go overboard on it. So I'm going to go with three guys in the 9K. It's going to be Rory first, then Scheffler, and then I like Rahm as well. JT, a little bit spraying off the tee worries me a little bit. He's probably the worst accuracy driver, accuracy-wise, when it comes to these top six guys. Cam is just as bad as JT. And now, does that mean JT can't win? No. Does that mean Cam can't win? No. They could do, but you got to make a stand. I'm going with the three best drivers. Rory's tops. I like Rahm. Rahm is long. Rahm is accurate. I mean, shit, Rahm is top 25 in fairways gained in the top 50 in the last 50 rounds in this field. I'll go with fifth in distance. That sounds like a perfect combination for this course, right? And Rory, best driver of the golf ball in the world. Scheffler, another guy who's somewhat long and pretty accurate as well. I'll go with those three guys. I hope their iron play is strong. And they're also very good at avoiding bogeys. They're all in the top 10 in bogey avoidance as well, and all of them good. Scotty's not the best, but above average in long par fours. So give me those guys. I like those three. I'm actually starting my cash game cornerstones with Rory McIlroy after what he did this past week at the Canadian Open, how well he could drive the ball, how good his wedges looked this week. Maybe his iron play, it's finally clicking. It's happened before. I think JT won, or JT's done it before, where he's won an event and then won the major leading up to it. I think Rory can do it too. I'll probably bet Rory this week as well.
I think they showed the stat today. Rory was in 2014 to win a PGA Tour event and then win a major the week after. So Rory's got that going for him. It was the last question asked to him as he was leaving his press conference today, where he spoke very highly of JT too. Said he has the most respect of anyone that's still in the current game for JT, because they are buddies. They live close. They practice a lot together. So thought that was pretty cool, but I want to go back for 1 second because we'll spend way less time in the 6K in that. But the thing about JT for me too, a couple things actually, not even close to the same course, but he has won in Boston before, 2017 TPC Boston. He's bones on the bag. We've talked about this all season long. Ted Scott on the bag, and that makes me lean more towards just those top three guys: Scheffler, JT, Rahm, and Rory's going to be popular. So while it sucks to fade, it would be an interesting thing. So we'll see where I'm at by the end of the week. But as of right now, leaning to those top three. I forgot about the driver stuff with Cam Smith, like you mentioned. That could be a problem, and the price is just too much. I know they'll be way lower owned, him and Morikawa. But yeah, bones on the bag has been very important for JT. Southern Hills, like this course, this is a course here. That was what, 6 under? He got the job done in a playoff. This course, we could see an over par winner. Like it's, you could see even par win this thing. It just seems like it's going to be that tough, especially if they get the wins and stuff they're talking about. And I don't know if that's what helped JT turn the corner, is the bones on the bag stuff, but I just feel like he's got the complete game. And then one thing I will note, Kenny, because I always talk about not doing this, but I think it's a really good, interesting strategy. I'm going to talk about another one in the 9K range after, but that I like for this week is I actually think, because of that situation I just mentioned, where you could see an over par winner or like a 3 under, a 1 under, and then, you know, everyone else is at +2 or worse or something like that, just making it up off the top of my head right now. But I think you could see a runaway here. Like you could see a Scheffler JT run away and the rest, or a Rahm JT or something like that. So I kind of like, if you have those three up top, you almost force yourself into some unique lineups with Rahm, Scheffler instead of JT Rory or something like that. And even if you're not using them together, starting with them is different than Rory and JT. And then secondly, if you did put them together, I think while it's riskier, I definitely think there's a scenario where you could see that come through, and a lot of people go balanced at these US Opens, right? For good reason. We talked through this on the Mayo show as well, but I do think that's an interesting concept up here. Nothing else for me to really add in this 10K range.
All right, let's go to 9K. My second cascade cornerstone is going to be Xander. I don't think he's ever finished outside like the top 10 at the US
Top 7,
Open.
I think, or something.
Something like that. I mean, the stats are all there. He's fine. They're accurate, long enough. Hits a lot of greens. I don't think it's too much to go over. He's going to be one of the more popular plays out there. So I'll go ahead and have Xander. Not the biggest fan of this range. I like Hideki as my favorite GPP play down here. You know, has the major credentials. You know, iron game always strong. Short game has been really, really good. So, you know, par fours, he's fine. Hitting enough greens. So give me Hideki as my favorite GPP play in the 9K range. What about you?
Yeah, a couple things on this range. So one, it's like you said, it's not as ideal to me. Like I don't love it. Xander will be popular for sure, for good reason. Guy always comes top 7. Not sure. We'll see what happens here, but I feel like Spieth is an interesting guy right there. He'll always get a little bit of public love in majors, but at $100 less, think about the around the green game stuff we talked about. His driver has actually been better. His ball striking has been better. So if he can continue that, he usually shows up in majors as it is, even in his dark days or worst times. After his, you know, such a hot start to his career, he still was showing up at certain majors. And I think this is a spot we could see him show up again as well. I like Hideki with you. I'm not sure how the public will be about that based on the fact that he's had some injury stuff going on, but I think he's a perfect fit at 9,100. Lowry should be popular, but I think Neiman's going to suck up some of it too. So it'll at least keep him in check. But Lowry has been incredible, and he just continues to carry on. He's another guy that just doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Extremely solid. Bogey avoidance, he's number 2 over the last 24 rounds. He's 7th in sand saves. Third, like all the stuff just fits for him. And then overall, he's 10th in tee to green. So I like him. And then Willie Z. Going to talk about this guy real quick because you know how much I shit on him, but we're right back to the same position here, Kenny. Everything that you talked about, and we'll bring it up again. Some people will be listening to us for the first time this week, and we appreciate you joining us. But Kenny, you had it before. It was Scheffler, it was Morikawa, and it was Hovland. And now doesn't Willie Z hop right back up into that mix even further after just losing in a playoff at the PGA Championship? Like, well, he doesn't have the win to go with it. He's doing literally everything the same or better in some cases beyond it. So I think at 9,300, couple things about it. One, he's a great tournament play. And because no matter how much you think he can get owned, you've got Xander, you've got Rory up above, you've got JT, you got Spieth, you got Lowry, Neiman, all those guys around him. So he's not at least going to be kept in check. And then secondly, Kenny, the strategy piece I was going to bring up, I think it's very interesting this week to either, if you're going to go the balanced route, don't start with Xander. So either start with JT or even ultra balanced, start with Willie Z and get down from there. And you'll be able to pack all the guys in. And then you can put some of that 7K range chalk into your lineups or a 6K guy to get another 9K underneath them, like Matsuyama or anything like that. So I just think it's another way to go about it with your balance lineups where you just don't start with Xander Schauffele. That would be my take on it there.
All right, let's get to this 8K range. My third cash game cornerstone. It's going to be Matthew Fitzpatrick. Again, ball striking has been incredible. I think he was like first in strokes gained off the tee this week and eighth in strokes gained approach to Canadian Open. He gained some absurdly amount in the first. He's like top 20 in strokes gained tee to green last week in 2 rounds. And when he missed the cut, ball striking is just unbelievable. Of course, he has the win here at the U.S. Amateur. And I'm going a little bit different when it comes to cash this week. It is top 60 in ties. You see less 6 of 6 here than probably any other major of the year. So I want upside. I'm not looking for, because there's always going to be carnage. There's always going to be a couple of guys that are highly owned that you think that are going to miss the cut at a U.S. Open just because of the way the course is laid out and how difficult it plays. So I want upside in my cash game cornerstones, in my cash line. Right now, those 3 guys I listed, Rory, Xander, Fitz, they all, I think, have a chance to win at least top 5. No problem, right? And then, and then I'm going to have a punt, which is going to be in the 6K range. And I got 2 guys in the low 7K range that I think could still win. So that's the way I'm going. I'm going a bit aggressive when it comes to cash. I want those placement points. I think 6 of 6 is going to be tough. I think you're going to see less than 10% of that in single digits. So I want the upside. I want the winner, who I think will be Rory. And so go ahead and give me those 3 guys to start off my cash lineup, and I'll go from there. There's a lot of guys in that low 7K range that are definitely playable this week. 6K, little iffy, but I got one guy I'm going to go in based on current form. We'll talk about that here shortly, but I like this 8K range. That's why I think, starting with 3 or 4 guys in the 10K range, is not going to be impossible for me to do when I make my lineups. Because, I like Neiman a lot. His short game, we've talked about it, has improved tremendously. His length off the tee is great. We'll see how accurate he can be. He has weeks on and weeks off when it comes to accuracy off the tee. But I like Neiman when it comes down to a top 20 in strokes gained tee to green in the last 50 rounds in this field. I also like Burns, a proven winner. I think it's his time finally to try and contend in the major. I know he hasn't had the best major record, but at some point in time, he's going to have to get out of that funk. And he's been playing well enough, and he's been having all these victories where I think he's going to make a difference in a lineup, in a GPP lineup at a major at some point in time. I think I'm going to have to roster him at every major coming up, just because he's so good, he's so talented, and people get off of him because he doesn't have the best major record. Max Homa might be my favorite play. One of my favorite plays on the board when it comes to GPPs this week. He was in that sort of same mold as Burns when it comes to not being great at majors, but this year he's really stepped up with good play in majors. He's won at Riv. He's won big tournaments before. It's probably his time. Again, another guy who could break out. His iron game is strong. Top 20 in strokes gained tee to green. Distance-wise, you don't notice with him, but he's top 25 in the field in driving distance in the last 50 rounds, plus top 50 in accuracy off the tee as well. And his around the green game, average, not great, but it's not horrible. So give me Max Homa. I like him at that price. One of my favorite GPP plays. I don't know how popular he'll be. I can't get the read. I mean, the read for this is the most popular guy will probably be Fitz. He will be the chalk. Probably Tony Finau. Probably will be chalk in this range. So I don't think Homa or Burns can get too much ownership going with those guys around him. What do you think about this range?
Yeah, you nailed it. I'm going to follow up on a few things. First, Kenny Miyagi over there talking about Neiman and weeks on, weeks off. Very, very close to wax on, wax off. But we can talk about Danielson if you want in the same range. We can go there. Daniel Berger has it. I got interested in him.
He's interested in me too. Yeah, he's interested.
Yeah. So one takeaway is, he was really struggling with the putter. That, we talked, I think it was the caddy change.
Normally a good putter.
Normally a good putter. And
yeah.
You know where he found it at? The Memorial, finished 5th. So here's the thing that my biggest takeaway of all that, instead of repeating everything you said, because I agree with a lot of it, and I'll key in on a couple other things, but Fitzpatrick will be popular. And it's, for me, I have a problem with that, because it's like, he seems perfect on paper, and that's why I use them cash and all that. I'm fine. But like you went on a tangent on a bunch of other dudes. Why? Because they can beat his ass.
They
Like
can
look
beat
at
him.
this week.
Yeah.
Look at this week. Burns beat his ass and has 3 wins on the season. He has none ever on the PGA Tour. DP World Tour, he's great. 7 wins, big time tournaments, you name it. He'll get one eventually. I'm not dogging him for that. I'm saying in this range where he's at. Burns and Finau both beat his ass this week. People are going to make fun of me for this one, but Fitzpatrick was the guy that was supposed to win the Memorial. Daniel Berger came in 5th. Billy Horschel won it. And Billy Horschel's above his ass by $100. Like has a great around the green game, grinds it out. He's not a guy that makes
this 8K range is strong.
It is.
That's
stacked.
why I think you can go. You can go with a couple of guys high up, starting there and just skipping the 9K range in your mass multi and your MME builds. Start with a Scheffler, start with Rory, and then go down here, pluck 2 guys from the 8K range. You still got 7K plus for all the rest of your golfers.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think that's a great way to go about it.
That's the way I like to do it. I think that's the way I will build my lineups this week. Like Hideki, I'm playing. But other than that, in the 9K range, Xander is going to be cash game cornerstone, so I'm not going to have him more than 20%. So, those 2 guys, I can see myself skipping it. And I can see a lot of people doing that too. So that could be, usually the 8K range is the dead range when it comes to ownership. I think it's opposite this week. I think the 9K range might be the dead zone when it comes to ownership this week. And the 8K range could be pounded.
And exactly. And I was going to say on the other side of that, and that's why I always talk about building from a portfolio. You could, even if you only got 3 lineups, put 2 to what you think is the roster construction you like, put the other one this way where you build with 3 9K guys, skip the 8K range and do that because what we just talked about. But we like what we're saying is the other way where you're actually loading up on this 8K range because I think a winner can definitely come out of here. And the only guy you didn't really mention a lot on that I think is still a little bit interesting, at least. I'm with you on Homa. I'm with you on Neiman. Neiman will be popular, by the way, too. So it'll be Neiman, Fitzpatrick,
and Finau.
And then I think actually Berger or Burns. Burns will pick up some of the difference. But Cam Young is overpriced. Excuse me. If you go back to this week,
he's way overpriced.
I'm not sure how they all shook out, Kenny, and it didn't work out in the end. But like Varner was overpriced this week, T13. Hadwin was overpriced this week, a rough Sunday, but still made the cut and T35. Who else was somebody? Nick Taylor was overpriced, T28. You look at stuff like that. Svensson at 7,100 was more than, usually get him low 6Ks or so. He was T21. A bunch of guys like that where people didn't really want to pay up for it. And it's similar here. Cam Young is a guy that we've just seen do it time and time again. And maybe that rough Sunday is going to be in people's head, but don't forget about the 3 days before that, before the 84 on Sunday. It doesn't mean it's going to repeat itself. So I think he's at least an interesting tournament play. Did you have any thoughts on a couple guys we didn't mention? Just so not to name them all, but it's a first look. We're talking through it. Brooks Koepka in majors. Look, it's been every major this year. The Masters, he was a little bit popular because first one of the year, but then I remember people were like, holy shit, our ownership projections were off by like 6 or 7% when it came out and Brooks got a little bit of steam. And then last one at the PGA Championship, it picked up again, late steam on Brooks. So
he's going to be single digit owned, right?
Right now, nobody wants him. He'll be single digit owned. I think that stays. But do you like him, or could you make a case? It is a U.S. Open, but we said that
he's so bad.
Yeah,
like his form is not great, but it's Koepka. I don't know.
See,
I don't know.
But it's
Koepka. If he's 8%, if he's 8%, and I can get double the field at 15, maybe.
But can you get double the field when you like all the other dudes you mentioned in this range?
Exactly.
Right? Like you got to. Then you're cutting more 9K guys. But you said
then you're starting some lineups with just Decky and rocking 4 guys from the 8K range. You know what I'm saying? Trying to do it that way. Yeah. I don't know. Who's the other guy you were talking about?
Well, the only other thing I was going to say is the one interesting point about that. Maybe it's not Decky, but just like I said with the Zalatoris or the Spieth, the people say, "Oh, you can't write off all the talent up top." It is true. It's scary to do so. But I was just going to land one last point: is if you don't love Smith, Morikawa, forget ownership aside in the game theory because you can get crazy down low. But Smith, Morikawa, Hovland, X as chalk, DJ, Cantlay, Brooks Koepka. Like if you don't like all those guys, it's actually very viable where that lineup could come through because let's say not all 4 of those dudes up top come through. Like if you don't see a Scheffler, JT, Rahm, McIlroy board, and one of them could miss the cut too, like anything can happen. It's golf. We know this. But on top of the fact of, do you remember back to the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, the Gary Woodland one, where Brooks was like the only dude from up top that ended up making it near the end. And he was chasing his ass down. And basically we did the numbers after, a lot of people looking at that stuff, researching or reviewing the tournament. And it was like, even if Brooks had to beat him, there was lineups that he would, like the winning lineups of tournaments that he wouldn't have been on because of how much the other guys did and what you needed to make it work, because you need so much to happen to get these high 5-figure dudes into those lineups. So I'm not writing them off. I'm playing them across my portfolio of 150 lineups, but I would just say, I think some of those balanced builds with 9K guys could end up working because of that.
All right, let's go 7K. I mean, obvious chalk up top is going to be Sung Jae and Corey Connors, right? After what Corey did this week and the way he plays his game, being accurate off the tee. Sung Jae's been having a good little run here in the last month. The form is really good. He's way too cheap. So those guys are going to be the chalk up top. For me, if you're looking for outside of those guys, I mean, there's options here. Louis at 7,600. 7,600, super cheap for a guy who comes and performs in majors with really excellent short game. People are going to be off. I mean, would it be like anti-live talk where people don't roster him? I think this might be a week where you can get him single digits again, right? And what do you think?
I love it. Yeah, I've got him on my list for sure.
That seems like a play right there at 7,600. I like Tommy. I don't know if I want to play him. We'll see how the week goes and see how his ownership is. If it's a lot, like 15, 20%, I might fade him. I'll go back to Mito. The guy, after his little thing at the PGA Championship with the disappointment, he came back and showed some balls his next couple of events, going out there and doing well. When it comes to bogey avoidance, when it comes to par 4 scoring, when it comes to long par 4s, the thing is he's pretty accurate and long off the tee as well. I didn't realize this. Top 50 in driving distance in the field last 50 rounds, top 25 in fairways gained, top 10 in greens and regulation. All of it. That seems all of it to scream, and he's good around, good around the greens. He's been better. Top 50 in strokes gained around the green in the last 50 rounds in this field. Mito looks like a good choice here. I like Mito. If you're looking for a pivot from Connors, I like Mito. If you like a pivot from Sung Jae, I like Usti.
Yeah, one thing I'll say, and we talked a little bit about this too, but the M thing is a big decision here, because I think here's the thing I'll say is like the obvious is what people are going to say. He's going to be 25 to 30% or 20 to 25 range, whatever you want to call it.
I'll let you know right now, he's not in my cash game cornerstones because it just wouldn't make sense money-wise. I'd have less than 14,000 left for you guys to build the rest of your lineups. But he is in my cash lineup. He's in there. So that's the 5th.
There you go.
Cash game cornerstone you'll get right there. The number 5.
Even though, and I don't know where I'll land yet. Like I said, obviously, good thing I'm doing a million shows this week. Like always during a major week, I'll be on the Wednesday live show. It's free. So you'll get the final sort of thoughts on this. But right now, I struggle with it. I think it's just a terrible price. Like you look at everything, like the guy is like, you fade from game theory perspective, but I'm saying I can do that if I'm already out on like Rory, X, some of those dudes that we already talked about up top. We'll make some decisions along the way. But if I'm already out on them, I'm not going to end up with the same build with all the chalk in one lineup anyway. And I'm playing guys like Decky, and I'm playing guys like Cam Young, who we talk about, Homa, Horschel. Like I'm already unique in a bunch of places. No matter what we do, and we're going to be able to make it work. So all I'm saying is, I think you can make a decision on this guy. And if he's going to be 20 to 25%, you got to commit. He would end up being my top owned guy at like 50%. And that's just my value play of the week. And if he's dead, half my lineups are dead and the other half can still go get it. Like that's how I'm looking at it right now. He just feels too good to be true. I'm
sticking with, like I said, all my cash plays, never more than 20%. I'm sticking with that with Sung Jae. No more than 20, even though he's going to be more than 20% owned in GPP. So
do what you feel is right for you.
I will be less than the field.
Yeah. And that's fine. That's why I'm saying.
But bankroll wise, total bankroll wise, I'll probably be more in the field.
And one thing to remember,
cash is like 45% of my bankroll.
Yeah, you'll have your money on them either way. I get what you're saying. Yeah. One thing to remember real quick is just like when I talk about this stuff too. So when I'm playing Sung Jae without those other guys already, it's like, oh, you played the donkey chalk Sung Jae? Yeah, but completely different than everybody else. I didn't play him with all these guys, first of all. Second of all, they'll say, you idiot, you could have played Louis Oosthuizen right beside him and Louis crushing or whatever. Well, guess what? Like I say all the time, you get 6 slots on your roster. You actually are allowed, believe it or not, to go play both of them in the exact same lineup. So while everyone pivots and then go, oh, I pivoted, but they both ended up top 10 and one of them came top 5 and you needed both. I think that's just overlooked quite a few of the times. But a lot of times people sit back and say, I got to pivot off this guy. Who do I go to? I'm going to play answer. I'm going to play power, whatever. You can do that. Nothing wrong with it. And that's 50% of my lineups will have some of that. But within, if I am on him, I'm saying if I'm on him for 50% of my lineups, which I think you'd have to do for the case here, I'm going to have him mixed with a lot of the pivots around him too, because not as many people will combine as they will go away from it. And he just feels like such a good play, man. Like literally everything across the board. Only thing he doesn't have like pop for in models, which is surprising actually to me, is the distance. But we know what he can do, man. Like I don't know.
It's not like he's super short though.
That's what I'm saying.
He's like
for
top half. He's like top half of the field.
Yeah, he doesn't pop completely, but at the same time, he's definitely long enough. Like,
but he's hitting a lot of fairways.
This is not a 4 par 5 course with eagle opportunities and all this stuff that we need. Like, it's totally different reasoning here. And again, don't forget he's that good of a ball striker where it's like he can find the spots that he needs to be in to set himself up for the proper success and then keep him, keep away. He's top 5 in the field in bogey avoidance, top 10 overall, like just as far as all the stats combined that we talked about. So I don't know. I think he's the biggest decision. Some of the other guys for me, though, I liked Corey Connors quite a bit coming into it, but he's going to get extremely popular here, maybe for good reason as well. But Aaron Wise is right there in between Fleetwood, Mito, and Connors. So I think that's an interesting play. I don't see a lot of difference. He does have the distance. He hits a lot of greens. He has a solid bogey avoidance. Around the green's a little bit tricky and it's important, but I don't think he's bad. And we've seen some great shots from him around the green recently. So I think that's interesting. And then going down, one guy that keeps popping in all the stats that, like you mentioned, Kenny, I think that's an interesting point on the anti-live stuff, but Taylor Gooch, $7,500. We compare him at times without the wins. Of course, we've compared his game to like Sam Burns. You can easily see him and Burns be in the mix. Like, so I like that. Munoz,
he's the best in the field around the green last 50 rounds. Taylor Gooch. I don't hate that play. I will be playing Taylor Gooch. And
another guy like Sungjae that I think the distance stuff looks like he's middle of the pack, but we know it's enough. Like, I'm not concerned that he's, I'm not saying he's some shorty or he's not some plotter out there. Like, at the end of the day, he's going to be able to get the job done. So I like him. I like Munoz. I like Riley. One thing interesting about Riley is that, as much as everyone says he's going to be popular, how's it all going to shake out at the end of the week with all the ownership?
I think Rose's finish today is just taking a bunch of ownership away from Riley.
You nailed it. I was going to say, not only did we just talk about all the guys above, but you talk about Rose now down below, who we're going to get to, where it's like, now Riley, Henley, Sergio, even Varner, Kokrak, these guys all open up here, and I'm interested in this area. So that's where I'm going to go here. Anybody else you like sort of in this?
I like Riley. I mean, I like Rose just because we'll see how his ownership goes. Fuck it. I'll just give you my whole cash lineup. He's in my cash lineup now. He's my 6th guy right now. Fuck it. You guys can go ahead and get it because I liked it before this week, but he should have shot 58 on Sunday. Plus, the U.S. Open he won was at Marion, which some people have called this a comp course with Marion. He won there. I don't know how much you can glean off that because they played Marion like once in the last 20 years. But Rose was the winner there. So, short game is there. It just makes a lot of sense. But then, you could move up a little bit. Patrick Reed, interesting at that price. Game has not been exceptionally good, but you've seen flashes from him, and he can jump out. And again, short game has always been good. Russell Henley, surprisingly, one of the best short game guys out there, top 20, I think top 10 in the field in strokes gained around. I'm sorry, top 20 in strokes gained around the green last 50 rounds. His iron play's been the second best on tour behind Justin Thomas this season for the last year and a half, basically. He's probably been the 3rd best iron player behind Morikawa and JT. Third in with a good short game. I could go with Russell Henley down here. Going down again, short game again. Give me a little Kevin Na, a little anti-live action when it comes down to, he's going to be hitting fairways. He's going to be able to get it up and down. It's 7,000 price tag. I could go with that. It's no problem with me. Again, the length, it's going to be a little bit of an issue, but if he hits enough fairways, his iron play is what? Top 10 in strokes gained approach in the last 50 rounds in this field. You throw those two numbers there, approach around the green. If he does average or off the tee, he could be in the top 20, top 25 this week. I could see that happening. And then, at 7K, that's not bad. That's not bad. But, but I do like Riley. I'm with you on Riley. I'm going to play him. I'm going to play a little Reed. Henley's interesting. Those are my guys. All right.
Yeah.
So
Real quick, just
okay.
to add, I do like the Kevin Knock call. I mentioned this one as well, but you just talked about it. Obviously, we know the only thing he's missing is the distance, but he has the experience, which in some cases, if you got 5 bombers and then him in your lineup to round it out, he can get you a top 20. And if you look over the last 24 rounds, like the recent stuff on tour, first in that 125 to 150, third in the 175 to 200, and then obviously he's incredible around the greens. So, stand saves around the green, bogey avoidance, like he's all capable in those areas. So I don't hate that. And then even Siwoo, really good with those longer irons, really good on hitting fairways,
short
and really,
game.
really
Koreans
strong around the
game.
green.
Strong.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like those guys to round things out down at the bottom.
There's guys down here. So, I mean, you could do 2 10K guys and round it off with 4 guys in the 7K range and still be very happy with your lineup. It's possible. It's definitely possible to do. All right. Before we get into the 6K rounds, I know there was no story time with Kenny. I have been usually doing them in majors. So this week, we're going to do story time with Thorborn Olesen. Okay. Thorborn is $6,700 in this field. He just won an event about a month ago. He's viable. He's viable. But let me tell you, most people know the story that, okay, so a couple of years ago, he was flying home from the WGC event. I think it was in Memphis or something like that. It was him, Justin Rose, and Ian Poulter. They get on a plane. Before he gets on the plane, he decides to drink like 4 Bloody Marys, vodka soda, some other shit, and take just mad pills that he just finds in his bag. Like, he just found a couple of pills in his bag and just decided, I'll take these. So he gets on the plane, and he's really fucked up. Like this is very similar to many story time with Kenny's that I have not posted because it would just be horrible and I can't tell a lot of those stories. But this one's not about me, so I can tell this story. So Thorborn, he gets on the plane and he starts causing a ruckus on the plane. He's bothering all the stewardesses. He's on first class. He's bothering all the stewardesses. He goes up to a woman who's sleeping, grabs her titty, straight up, grabbing random girls' titties on the plane. Poulter tries to stop him, but there's no stopping him. So Poulter just goes back to sleep. He was like, I don't remember anything else that happened. I went back to sleep. Well, so Thorborn does all this stuff. He's going crazy on the plane, and he finally sits down, takes a little bit of a nap. I guess the sleeping pills came through, and they started working. But he gets up in the middle of his nap and just starts pissing all over the aisle in first class. Now, I like him. I like him this year. I like Thorborn. He's a man of my. I don't know. I get him. I understand. Everybody has pissed in some place they shouldn't have pissed in their lives. Everybody has done it. His just happened on a very isolated, very public place. Okay. I'll tell you, like when I was in college, I was dating this chick. It was a funny thing. She ended up being, she runs her own psychiatrist firm right now, super successful. I dated another girl who, after they broke up with me, became a professor at the University of Florida International. And I have another girl, after they broke up with me, become general manager at a Ludo Lefevre, famous, worldwide famous chef, one of his restaurants. So it seems like when girls break up with me, their lives get better. I wonder why that is. Anyways, we're going back. Thorborn, the girl. I was in college, right? So I was in college. I was hammered. I was sleeping at my girlfriend's house at that time. And I leave, I have to go piss. Instead of making a right turn to go to the bathroom, make a left turn, and I go into her roommate's room. I basically just dropped trout and just started pissing all over her fucking trash can. All right. She's like, what are you doing, Kenny? I just kept apologizing and kept pissing. She's like, I'm so sorry. I just kept peeing straight in the trash can. Funny thing is, 10 years later, 20 years later, I don't know, I guess it was 10 years later, I come back and move up to Northern Virginia, right outside of DC, and get a job at a fine dining restaurant. And she is a server at that fine dining restaurant. So every time I worked with her for like 8 years, I can never not hear that story of me pissing in her fucking trash can. But everybody's pissed in some place they should not have peed before. So you can't blame Thorborn about that. Now, the crazy thing about this is it went to trial, okay? His defense, Thorborn's defense was that because of the alcohol and because of the pills that he just randomly took, he said he was not in control of his body. And he got off. He got off. He got off on that. He took a whole bunch of pills, drank a whole bunch of liquor, blamed the pills and liquor, and got off. Amazing. Amazing. He's in the field this week. $6,700. I'm playing him just to prove a point because I want to play him because that's an amazing story. That is something that goes well with the story time with Kenya feature. Story time with your born Olison. I'm playing him at $6,700. Other guys in the 6K range that I am interested in. Give me a little Frankie Molinari at 6,900. Game trending a little bit better than what it was. You know he's accurate enough off the tee. You know he's good around the greens. So give me a little Frankie baby at $6,900. A little maybe there's a lot of Euros here that have with good form that have won recently. Audrey Arnaus won recently. Victor Perez won recently. Lucas Herbert played really well at the PGA Championship. Now he's a member of the PGA Tour. But my final cash game cornerstone is going to be a guy with incredible form. I think something like 6 top 10s in his last 7 events. Ryan Fox at $6,700. I'm using him as my punt play. That's basically how I'm going to go about it. Long off the tee. He could bomb it out there. Not very accurate, but I'm hoping that, his form and his confidence can lead him to a made cut this week. So my cash game cornerstone this week are going to be Roy McIlroy 10-5, Xander Schauffele at 9. What is Xander? 9-5. Xander's 9-6. Matthew Fitzpatrick
9-6, yeah.
Matthew Fitzpatrick at 8-5, and then Ryan Fox at 6-7. That still leaves you like 14-7, 14-6 to fill out the rest of your lineups. And you guys know the other 2 spots are Rosie and M right now. So there you go. You get all my cash this week. We'll see how it goes. I'm going aggressive. I'm going with 5 guys that I think can at least top 5 or win this event because I'm thinking there's going to be carnage. The 6 is going to be low. I want the upside. So give me that. That's how I'm going to go about it in cash. Other guys, Scott Stallings is a Northeastern guy. He's from the area. He might have a little bit of good feelings coming back home. And it's only been a couple of weeks since he was in contention, on tour. I forget which event it was, but he was in there. He was up there. He had a chance before falling a little bit on the back 9 Sunday. But yeah, a lot of these Euro guys I'm interested in here. Once you get past Yorborn at like 6'5", who just won an event maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, it's tough sledding, man. What are you going?
Yeah, that's the trouble down here. We'll see as the week goes on. I kind of, Fox is always, he was even popular at the PGA Championship, not popular like too much ownership, but people like at least know who he is. And I can see, like you said, where he fits here, the course form, everything coming in, some of the events that he's been playing in a little stronger than others. And that's sort of the challenge. We'll say down here, like, oh, guys have won recently or whatever. It's a fine balance because the PGA Tour guys coming in top 10 in a strength of field that's like through the roof versus a guy winning. It's a win's a win for sure. But it's on an event with like the way worse strength of field than what we even just saw in Canada. So, it's way beyond that, way lower. So that makes it a little tough. Like I was talking to Mayo about this yesterday and Raza, like some of the thing you can do in this range is just bet on long-term talents. And so if you like, Sam Horsfield, Lucas Herbert, who you mentioned, Minwoo. Well, we brought him up, Kenny, because his sister, Minjee Lee, just won the women's U.S. Open. So what a story. You can see the headline now. Again, don't think he can do that, but we would have said that at the Masters and he was trying to press there. So I don't know. We'll see what he can do. I kind of like him. Harry Hall, a guy who just won on the Corn Ferry Tour. But again, betting that goes with my strength of field argument earlier, not even close. But especially not to here, but just not worthy of counting in general versus what we're getting into here. But if you're betting on talent long-term and guys you could see at much higher prices, don't forget, we use this example too, but you go back to like Chambers Bay. I think Xander Schauffele was 6,100 when they played golf at Chambers Bay for the U.S. Open and made the optimal lineup. It's like a guy that eventually is now we're looking at him in your cash game cornerstones at 9,600 at a U.S. Open. This is years later, but I'm just saying.
Do you see someone like that here?
I don't. I'm not. I'm saying. Well, what I think Minwoo Lee is definitely
the best. I think the best choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Minwoo, Sam Horsfield, Lucas Herbert. I'm not saying they're going to be a Xander up to that level. I'm saying, could you see them more than $6,800 or $6,400? Yes, I could. So someone's going to come from down here. Richard Mansell, down at 6,100. Same sort of situation as Ryan Fox, just good form in stronger of the events over in the Europe on the DP World Tour that I could see being part of it, but not a lot else for me down here, Kenny. And I think there's so many strategies we already talked about of just using those guys that aren't going to get owned at all in the 7K range that you can just find your way through some of those, especially with Rose possibly picking up steam there. We mentioned earlier, but like Varner, Kokrak, Sergio, Anti-Liv, Riley will get ownership, but Munoz is there. Keegan Bradley will pick up some, but not a lot. Gooch, we talked about a bunch of guys you can round your lineups out with that also aren't from the popular group 7,600 and above, where it's like 3 or 4 more heavily owned chalk guys that probably make that top 10 range.
Yeah, that sounds good, man. Let's go to bets. Should we move on? Let's go
to
betting cards. I only have 4 right now. It's probably going to change. I just threw this together here right before the pod, but Rory 11-1, Sam Burns 30-1, Sung Jae 50-1, Homa 50-1.
Yeah, so I've got the only preseason one I had was Homa. We had this on our. We'll talk about that for 2 seconds too. When we did our season preview, I actually had Rom to win here, and you had Brooks. A lot has gone on with Brooks since then. That was our picks at the start of the season. But I also had Homa at 100 from back then with a top 5 each way, just because I thought Riviera again, but it ended up being the Wells Fargo that he shipped. And so obviously odds since then, playing much better golf. I even had a decent outing in the most recent major at the PGA Championship. So Homa 100. I got a couple boosts there after on Fleetwood and Berger, both at 80 with a top 5. So I like that. And then DJ at 40. Anti-Liv, probably not going to do anything here, but we'll see.
DJ hasn't had like a top 5 since his Masters win. Is that right? That's insane.
I believe it. The 40 is, probably not even good enough, but I do like it better than like a 20 or 22, which is what it's back down to now, like a 25 or something. So I'll take a DJ 40 when nobody wants them. It's come through in the past. I don't think it will here, but I'll bet it for the just the value proposition. Again, it's probably not when you think he could be at like 60, but the books just can't do that because then it would start to get crushed.
Yeah, well, then everyone would hammer it.
So, DJ 50 or 60, the liability would be up. So the other guy I have interest in, I'm going to wait on, but that's my 4 bets. But anyway, JT, I talked about him enough. And funny enough, whenever I bring him up, last couple things, like people are just not interested in him yet, at least. Obviously, what he did today was special. I was glad he didn't win, but he'll still be like the second most popular on DraftKings. I'm just saying on that upper range, I think it goes Rory, then JT, then a mix of Rahm, Scheffler, and then go down from there. Nobody on Smith or Morikawa, but I do think JT can definitely find a way. He doesn't have the best U.S. Open history, but I think bones on the bag, all the other things we talked about, and sneaky tidbit, not real fake, but just fun. He went out to Southern Hills the week before that he went on to win it, and he was in Boston last week, checking this out, or this week, I should say, before going the next day, skipped a day of practice at the RBC to check it out. So clearly him and Bones got a little bit of research in there. So I'm good with that. I think JT could win this thing.
All right. One and done for me is going to be Rory or Xander. I got those 2 guys
I have
left.
Xander. So we're on the same page.
Rory
I don't
or
have
Xander.
anybody else. So I'll just play Xander for my top 7.
I'm like 44th in the carbon contest. Before this week, I had Fitz. I think he finished top 15, top 20. I don't remember. He was up there somewhere.
Top 10 he finished this week.
So I should still be decent up there trying to get that carbon contest money. Also, don't forget the Mayo Cup as well.
Yeah, all right. There's no Peter Uline or Henny Duplessis money for Fitzpatrick this week, but it is a T10. So you can get something there in your one and done.
Got a little something. And I'm going to take it. I'm going to move up with that Rory pick. I know it this week. I think he just looks too good. And this course just seems too perfect for him. Especially if that wedge game and that iron game is as strong as it was this week. I see him winning this thing. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Anything else before we go?
Where did they find you? What do you got going on?
You can find me on Twitter at KendoVT. You can find my article on gupscorner.com. Use promo code Kenny. Save yourself 30% on an article. Tambo.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Totag and Tambo. It'll also be posted tomorrow. I talked earlier about our Fantasy Golf Degenerates Twitter. We'll have the $200 Millie Maker ticket winners for that. My thread that I put out every Wednesday morning. So you want to follow me on Twitter at Totag and Tambo. It got over 500. It was like 560 or something retweets in the end over the last 2 weeks. Rounded up to 600. Call it 6 tickets. So I'm personally giving away 6 $100 Millie Maker tickets for this week. The winners will be announced on my Twitter tomorrow. I'm going to run that back for the Open starting just next week. So, talking about it on here, retweet, help support. It helps move it out so people can see it, can help them. And then, of course, runpuresports.com. You guys know what it is there. All sports, one price. We do have a special promo code. It's DGEN50, DEGEN50. Get yourself 50% off. It's 1 month. Try it out. You get all sports, one price, everything that's going on across the board. And you can get in that Discord. Plus, you get the Wednesday premium show, which is even after the free Mayo show here on this network, which includes exposures, percentages that we're doing with that, how we're setting lineups up, actual roster construction, and go from there. So check us out over there.
All right, that sounds good. Should be a fun event. Third major of the year. Lots of money on the line. It's going to be a good time. Let's go Thorborn. Let's win some motherfucking money. DGen Nation.
I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort, stacking pennies.